Hello, is there a show that you like to watch that is just really well written, and what you especially like about the writing is that it reflects real life? It's very realistic. If so, what is that show? And please leave it in the comments. One of the shows that I recently watched that I knew nothing about until like 2 months ago, it's called Unreal, and it's been wrapped like years ago. It's kind of old, but for some reason, I never heard of it until it came to Netflix. That's why I heard of it. But it's so well written, and I think it really reflects reality in just this beautiful way. Like I think I cried on this season, not season, the series finale because it was just so realistic. But anyway, if you've never heard of Unreal, it takes you behind the scenes um, into the lives of the producers and the people who run the show of a reality series that is very much like The Bachelor. So, as you're behind the scenes, you get to see what it's like to run a show like that. You also get to see what it's like to be a contestant. A contestant, that's not the right way to say that. Wait, yes, it is. A contestant, sorry, on a show like The Bachelor. Um, So, I just briefly want to talk about why I fell in love with this show. First of all, like I said, the writing is really good. And I think one of the main reasons that the writing is so excellent, sorry, I can't like think of words today, is because the main characters, all of the characters really are multi-dimensional. They're multifaceted. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of us writers, including myself, fall into is that we write characters as good, bad, and then you have your minor characters who don't matter. But that's not the way real life is. In real life, we're all a little bit good, a little bit bad. That's just the way we are. Um, there's no real good guy and bad guy. Like in real life, a person who wants to treat others well may not always reach that goal because maybe they're desperate or scared, or maybe they're having an off day. Maybe they have a mental problem or something. And so sometimes they make, we all make decisions that are questionable, that might even be considered villainous. So I like how that's reflected in the main character in Unreal. Her name is Rachel. And we see Rachel as a person who struggles with her mental health. Um, but you also, right off the bat, see that because of her struggles and because of things that have happened to her in her life, she has a lot of empathy for people. But the thing about empathetic people, which I love that the show picks up on this in Rachel's character, people who are highly sensitive and very empathetic also can be very manipulative. Because when you have a lot of empathy, that allows you to understand how people work, how they think, why they do what they do. So it allows you to kind of plug into other people to feel what they feel, to get on the same wavelength as them, and they kind of attach themselves to you because they see that you are open to them. You understand what they're going through. But at the same time, if a person is not if a person with great empathy and the ability to do all of those things wants to get this person to do something they may not normally do, they know how to make that happen because they're in tune with this person's feelings and they know how they think. So, Rachel, the main character in Unreal, she's that way. She has great capacity for empathy, a lot of empathy for people, but when she wants to, as a producer, because she's a producer on this show like The Bachelor, she wants to get them to do things that they normally wouldn't do on national television. She knows how to make that happen. So you see her do kind of, not kind of, but flat out awful things to other people. And you see her do really kind things for other people. And you see her beat herself up for all of the things that she does because she knows that she is killing people emotionally. Um, but also she kind of wants to do great work at her job. as a producer on this reality show. So it's a lot, but it's very realistic, and I like that all of the characters, not just Rachel, are written as multidimensional. You see them struggle with a lot of things that good people struggle with, and a lot of things that so-called bad or villainous people would struggle with. So I like that. The second thing, and the final thing that I'll talk about that I really like is the plot is very realistic, and the way that working in television is depicted is also super realistic. Now, like I come from a background not in entertainment television so much, just a little bit, but mostly my background is like television news, which is in a way it's kind of like reality TV, sort of. Um, and if I hadn't worked in the news industry for a little while, I would have watched Unreal and been like, no, that would never happen. People would never do that to other human beings. But now that I do have some experience working in news, I know that people will do terrible things for the sake of ratings. Like, there was one place, and I've worked at various places, so, but there was one place where I worked where something, we were live on air while some sort of crime was unfolding. I can't remember exactly what it was because this was a long time ago. Um, but there was something horrible happening, and our news crew was there getting everything live. And one of our team leaders, that's what I'll call him, one of our important people who was behind the scenes, was there in the newsroom, and we're all gathered around the television watching this, just like some of us are like, oh my God. Well, one of our leaders was smiling, laughing, clapping their hands, just gleeful that this horrible thing was happening because it would get us great ratings. And I remember some of us looking at the leader, one of the leaders, like, what? Are you a sociopath? And the answer to that is probably yes. In fact, I think a lot of people who are driven to that, who are motivated to get in that industry, might struggle with being a sociopath because you do kind of have to learn how to turn your emotions off, um, especially your empathy off to a degree. Enough empathy so that you can be manipulative and get people to give good sound bites, but you have to turn it off in order to do your job sometimes. Like, I'll just give a small example. One of the things that I did when I worked in news was writing. And so, what you'd have to do, or what the writers would have to do, is read a ton of police reports from early that morning or the night before, and then select specific police reports to write news stories about so that those would end up on, you know, as the news that would be presented for that day. Well, police reports, you're reading all this crime, and I live in Louisiana where there's a lot of domestic abuse. And I don't know if other states are like this. There's also a lot of child abuse and a lot of rape, like really horrible things. So it's like I would be reading these reports, reading like one after the other, and oftentimes I would end up crying because that's just the way I'm a very sensitive person. So I'd end up crying while I'm reading these. Um, but you kind of have to, I don't know, I don't know how to say it. Like you just turn your tears off and write the story. And that was always really, really hard for me. Like a lot of times I would be writing news stories and like still crying. And there were other, like one of my friends, a woman who I became friends with who worked in, she was a writer there too. She would do the same thing. Like we'd talk about it after work. Like, were you crying when you wrote that? Yes. So that's just, it's kind kind of sad. Sad, but at the same time, I do think that those sorts of industries like news and even reality TV, I think that they are kind of necessary. I know that sounds crazy to say for reality TV, especially, but I think it's necessary. I don't think that necessarily The Bachelor, that kind of show, is needed, but the sort of TV, I think that that piggybacks on news in that we need the news industry to tell us what's really going on. Because the news industry is very important in that it holds people in positions of power, accountable for their behavior. Like when politicians, people in office, do things that are criminal, um, or like during the Me Too movement, when a lot of these Hollywood producers who have a lot of power were like raping and doing horrible things to actresses and actors, they should all be held accountable. And the news industry helped make that happen. Well, along those lines, I think reality TV, when it's done properly, I'm not talking about like P. Diddy's Making the Band or from back in the day or The Bachelor, because that's like fake and it takes advantage of people. But when reality TV is done right, it can do the same thing that the news industry does in that it reveals the truth. It's sort of like a documentary about what really happens in certain industries or in certain social classes. Like, I know that the Real Housewives series, it's not, it takes advantage of people because a lot of times the producers kind of like tell these women that they're looked up to for being on that show when really America is laughing at these women. So that's not really right, but I do think that a show like that maybe was done a little bit better could be a nice window into a class that someone like me will never belong to. A part of society that I'll never be where those women are. I won't have like a mansion or, you know, stuff like that. So it's kind of a nice window. It could be a nice window into that sort of lifestyle and how someone could go from my class to that class. So, and also like show some of the struggles that people in like a higher position in society, some of the struggles that they go through. Because just because someone's wealthy, that doesn't mean that they have an easy life. And I do think that is something that the Real Housewives gets right. There's a lot that it gets wrong, but it does get right in revealing that no matter how much money a person has, they still have a lot of struggles. Um, and that we're all human, no matter what zip code we live in or how much is in our bank account. Excuse me. So I kind of went off on a tangent there, but the whole point of this video is I really think that the series Unreal was excellent. It was just one of the best, most well-written shows I've ever seen. Um, that said, it was pretty graphic, so if you're not into like graphic things that are very realistic, then you might not want to watch it. Um, But yeah, I think that's it for today. I just really like that show. But like I said at the start of this video, if there's a show that you like because you think the writing was excellent or it's just very realistic, please feel free to leave the name of that series in the comments. Thanks for watching.